Hey guys, it's Whitney Johns here from Team Fit with Whit. Now I wanted to put together a little video going over all of the tips and tricks and my favorite hacks for building the glutes. These are little things that I've learned over my years of personal training, training myself, training clients, and also in my bodybuilding composition, where it was really all about the glutes on stage, right? So I've picked up a few tricks along the way. Make sure you share this with a friend, hit like, comment, give us your feedback, and make sure to subscribe. So first, let's talk about training variety. Variety is so important. So think of your glutes as a dynamic trio. We have the large glute maximus, we have the glute medius, and then the glute minimus. That's why it's so important to train multi-directionally, so we make sure that all of our bases are covered and that each one of those little muscles is being developed properly in that nice round bubble that we're looking for, right? So I'm gonna show you a little bit about the exercises that will help train in each of these areas. So essentially, it's a multi-directional pathway to glute greatness, which would be vertical, horizontal, and lateral. Now, an example of a vertical exercise would be things like squats or lunges. For horizontal, it would be things like glute thrusts, glute bridges, and then for lateral, it would be things like lateral band walks and seated abduction. In addition to working multi-directionally, you want to make sure the exercise types are covered as well. So we have a plethora of compound movements, which is our foundational movements. We also have our unilateral movements, which is single leg movements. And then we have our accessories or our isolation movements as well. So this really makes sure our bases are covered in terms of rep range, weight for hypertrophy, strength, and endurance of this muscle group for that full, well-rounded development. At Fit with Whit, we still believe in training our entire body, even when we're focusing on something like the glutes. So you really want to have your upper body days as well. But you also can't work heavy legs every single day of the week because these muscles need to recover. They need rest and recovery in order for them to actually grow and make the proper gains. My recommendation is to work your lower body anywhere from 1 to 3 days heavily. And then you can add in accessories and isolations that take less recovery time, like some of the banded work, some of the ankle weights work, and feel free to refer to my exercise library on my channel to go over a ton of different options that you can do. But essentially, you want to be aiming for 3 days a week for your lower body. Now, in today's world, most of us live very sedentary lives. Like we're sitting at a desk, we're looking at our phone, we're very sedentary during the day. So this can actually lead to shortened hip flexors, lazy glutes, and sometimes it feels difficult for certain people once they get into a workout to feel like their glute muscles are actually firing up. The glutes have been deconditioned because of our lifestyle, but don't worry, that's okay. There's a simple fix for this. So my biggest recommendation is to start with a lower body mobility routine to make sure you're opening up these muscles and you're stretching dynamically in a way that will allow you to prevent injury going into your workout. And then following the mobility routine with a glute activation series. It's a little warm-up series. You can find it on my YouTube channel as well. It's called the Lower Body Band Glute Activation Warm-Up. So performing these banded exercises to activate the glutes really helps kind of wake them up and fire up these muscles so that once you get into your heavier weights resistance training, you can actually feel the muscle connecting. Now, what's really important is also this mind-muscle connection, to really picture connecting to the muscle that you're working with each movement and picture it firing up. Picture all of the momentum from the movement coming from that specific muscle. It sounds woo-woo, but when you visualize the muscle group actually firing up and engaging, it makes a world of difference. The biggest thing is going into your workouts intentionally. So performing each exercise, knowing what muscle is supposed to be working, connecting to that muscle, and then feeling it. makes a world of difference. Another part of the mind-muscle connection is really mastering the art of contraction, okay? So really contracting that muscle at the top of the movement, right? So even taking a half a second pause at the top of the movement to squeeze and contract the glute muscles in the exercise that you're performing before you go back to the bottom of the movement is a really good way to ensure that you're truly connecting to the glutes. Another way to really squeeze the juice out of each movement is to connect your breathing with each movement. So with each rep, you are breathing on the exertion. So you're exhaling on the exertion portion, inhaling as you're releasing. So think about it as the exhale as the rocket ship to your movement. That's what's fueling the movement and pushing you through. And then you want to inhale and exhale on each rep. So you can ensure that you are oxygenating your muscles with each rep. If you are one of those individuals who feels like you have those lazy glutes and it's really hard for you to feel that glute muscle engaging and firing up, feel free to really drop the weight. Start really light, start body weight if you need to, until you really feel those specific muscles firing up. And then you start to add the weight progressively. So never hesitate to dial it back or regress wherever you need to. Another incredibly important principle for not just glute training, but any training in terms of fitness is to apply progressive overload. Now, this essentially just means with each week, set by set, you are challenging yourself in each exercise to get just a little bit more difficult. Challenge yourself, whether it be in weight, in intensity, in volume, in frequency. You want to make it harder for yourself so that you don't hit that plateau. Now, I have a longer explanation of progressive overload on my channel, so feel free to check that out to get a little bit more of an in-depth look at what progressive overload looks like, but it's incredibly important, especially when it comes to building your glutes. Now let's talk about cardio. Cardio is incredibly important for any fitness routine, but when you're building your glutes, there's certain types of cardio that you might want to avoid. So long, prolonged, like treadmill sessions, long, prolonged, steady state cardio sessions can actually lead to some atrophy in these areas, which is kind of the opposite of what we're trying to do when we're trying to build the glutes. So opt for more booty strengthening cardio, things like the step mill, Jacob's ladder, plyometric exercises are great for this because it also builds strength. Or if you're a treadmill lover, you could always just go more intense on an incline, and that will help prevent some of the atrophy that comes from just, say, running on a treadmill. Now, as for adequate calories, I cannot express this enough because those of us who are in the perpetual dieter phase of our life, just always trying to look shredded and always in a calorie deficit, I hate to break it to you, but it's really tough to build your glutes while you're in a constant deficit, all right? So the idea is you need to eat more, not less, when you're on the mission of building your glutes. But it's really important to do this right. You don't want to just be eating junk food and call that a surplus. It's really important to have, your pre-workout nutrition down, to have high protein diet according to your macros for your body, the right amount of carbs and fats. And that's why at Fit with Whit, I try to make it as easy as possible to create a plan for you where it is designed where you're in a calorie surplus enough to build the muscle that you're looking for. But we can also do it in a way to where when we go and we cut you, maybe say before the summer, that's why the wintertime is a great time to build the glutes. You're in that extra surplus, you have a little bit of extra fluff while you're building the muscle, and then by spring, summer, we can cut you down into a little bit of a calorie deficit and get you all shredded and beautiful for summertime. So do it in the right way. Follow a plan, work with a professional that knows what they're doing in terms of diet and nutrition, and structuring a plan that's easier for you to follow, but also going to get you to where you want to go. So eat more, not less. Don't be afraid of calories. It's gonna look amazing once the process is all done. The biggest thing is trust the process. So speaking of nutrition, you really want to make sure that you are not only in a calorie surplus and that you're recovering from your workouts in a properly, but you also want to go into your workouts properly fueled. So pre-workout nutrition is really important. I always recommend a pre-workout meal with high in protein, high in carbs, about an hour and a half to 2 hours before your workout so that you have a lot of energy to expend in the gym and your performance will reflect that. Therefore, it will allow you to get more out of your workout. You'll squeeze more juice out of it and get better results and better gains. Now, another thing is pre-workout energy, whether that's just from the food that you're eating. I personally need a little bit of caffeine. The Brain Activate energy formulation has 90 milligrams of caffeine, so it's not a jittery kind of pre-workout where you're feeling a little bit cracked out. It's also giving you those MCTs, so you have natural energy from the healthy fats, and then you go into your workout more focused, more intentional, and again, getting more out of it. Two of my workout supplement staples for gains and booty gains specifically is my nitric oxide booster active from Whitney Nutrition, in addition to creatine monohydrates. Now, both of these are going to help fill your muscle with that blood and the water and give you that pump that you're looking for. It's also going to increase your oxygen uptake during your workouts and afterwards for recovering faster. So these are amazing when it comes to actual physique composition change and really recovering the way that we need to in order to make those gains. Now, when we are on an intense glute mission, oftentimes we can get into the overtraining territory. So it's really, really important to prioritize our recovery so much. So really prioritizing your sleep quality and the quantity of your sleep. You really want to make sure that you're stretching and doing a little cool down routine, which you can find my cool down and stretch routine on our YouTube. And making sure that you're doing foam rolling, maybe an Epsom salt bath here and there, really making sure that your muscles are getting that recovery. Because if you're going into each workout stressed, sore, tired, overtrained, you're really not going to be able to make the gains that you're looking for. So really prioritizing recovery is just as important as your workouts, really. Another great thing to do is to take a deload week, say every 8 to 10 weeks. If you're pushing it really, really hard for 8 to 10 weeks in a row, it's a really good idea to just take a little bit of a deload week, which I go into on our deload week video on my YouTube. So make sure you check that out. So here are a few form tips and tricks that I have learned for those of you who can't really feel their glutes firing up and who feel like sometimes maybe they're reverting into their quads more than their glutes. Here are a few things that you can try on for size. So one thing that you can do is play with your stance and your foot position. So toes out on a certain movement. So say a cable abductor. Toes out is going to target more of your glute max, while pointing your toes more inward is going to actually target more of your glute med. You can also play with your stance. So you can go narrow stance, you can go wider stance where your legs are a little bit wider apart, or you can go hip width. So this is something that you can play with on leg press, on squats, any kind of bilateral movement, and see which stance is really targeting your glute fibers the most. Another really important form tip is to make sure that your knees, first of all, are never caving inwards, especially on, say, like a squat. You wanna make sure, say at the bottom of your squat, that you're kind of flaring your knees out. That is really helpful in actually feeling those glute fibers firing up, and also making sure that you're in the right form. Now, pushing through your heels is kind of been a game changer for me in making sure that I got out of my kind of quad dominance, reverting to my quad muscle instead of my glutes. When I push through my heels on specific movements and I kind of flex my toes up, it really does help fire up my posterior chain and help target my glutes a little bit better. So try that one on for size. Another great way to squeeze the juice out of each movement is to play with tempo. So maybe that means that you go slow on the way down and then fast on the way up of a certain rep, right? So that's what it's doing, is it's increasing your time under tension to where that glute muscle can really get a lot more work out of it. So play with the tempo, experiment. Another great way to take a movement out of your quads and the quads doing all of the work and making sure that your butt is doing more of the work is to kind of play with the tilt of your torso, especially during unilateral movements. So things like lunges or, Bulgarian split squats, to kind of think about your torso coming a little bit more over your knee than just straight up and down. Sometimes that little adjustment is going to help fire up those glutes a lot better. Another great way to increase time under tension and glute fiber activation is maybe to add a resistance band to certain movements. So for something like a squat, you could always put resistance loop bands just above the knees as you're doing the squat, which is going to increase that glute fiber activation and that time under tension, going to get you more out of it and actually be able to really isolate the glutes in the movement. Okay, I hope I didn't overload you with too much information. Really, what it comes down to is repetition, consistency, and really feeling into your body. Every body is different. That's one of the reasons why my programs are called Find Your Fit with Whit, is because everyone's different. Everyone's movement patterns are different, biomechanically different. We're all going to have different things that work better or worse for us. So it's really up to you to explore. Make it fun, make it an experiment, make it, playtime in the gym where you're really discovering how your body works and what works best for you. So that's why I wanted to throw a lot at you, see what works for you, and really just stick to the fundamentals. So get in there, trust the process. And again, I cannot stress enough to have a plan or a program designed by a professional to guide you through. If you need my help, my link is below. Come check it out. Get to building those glutes. I'll see you there.